you all about the 1980s here in Pigeon Forge. It was a time of tremendous change. A lot of things happened that makes the city more the way you all see it today if you're visiting. How many of you are locals? Okay. How many are visiting from outside somewhere? Okay, well good. It's pretty much everybody local then. Okay, y'all might correct us on some things then. But it wasn't a lot of change happened in Pigeon Forge in the 1980s, and it does, as a result of that, it's more or less as it appears today. According to the 1980 census, there were 1,822 people living in Pigeon Forge. And in 1990, there were 3,027 people lived here. So we picked up quite a few in that 10-year period. A lot of people moved into the area and are continuing to move into the area. And they don't really have the memories we do of when Pigeon Forge was a sleepy little town, you know, that people just passed through here looking for Gatlinburg. And I was a boy going up here in the 60s, all they ever asked me is how far is it to Gatlinburg, you know. So the tremendous change that has happened here in Pigeon Forge is just phenomenal. A lot of things, one thing, and I'll start this out, and let me introduce my cohorts here. Miss Jackie Barnes down here on the end with that. Jackie has the J&B Market on the end of town. You get to go to the spur, you went too far, turn around and go back, she's there. Connie Myers, who I've known, who lived in the same place I did in Pigeon Forge, down below the school, which is now the city complex is up there. Down on the end is my good friend Bill Bradley, who lived, well, all over, but lives up now, next to where Tommy Bartlett's used to be up in there, if you remember all that and everything. But we all grew up together. We're all about the same age, and we're friends and have shared experiences here in Pigeon Forge. One thing that I started with, 1981 and 82 were big changes. And one thing that happened in Knoxville greatly impacted us here in Pigeon Forge too was they had the World's Fair in Knoxville in 1982. Did any of y'all visit the World's Fair in 1982? Did you come? I did. I did. How about you, Junior? Yeah. So it was nice, and a lot of Pigeon Forge and Sevier County really as a whole got a lot of overflow from that. So it kind of started all that going. I don't remember a whole lot about it. I do, they had the different pavilions there and everything in different countries and everything. I probably shouldn't tell it, but I went to the Stroh House when I was there. Beer was half price, so you could go to the
I can't imagine.
Yeah, you can imagine. That's a long time ago. I was a lot younger then.
I thought that the China
The China, yes.
I thought that was
the
amazing
best.
to get to see that.
It was indeed. So we got a lot of overflow from all that. We didn't have, still even in the early 80s, we didn't have a lot of chain hotels here. There was a Ramada Inn on the south end of town, and there was a Holiday Inn, which is now the Ramsey, who was over here, where we've been at in the past, you know. But there weren't a lot of chain motels here. They were still, most of them were privately and independently owned, you know, the Normandan and places like that. So they, Jackie, were you in business in your market up there? You were there.
Well, I actually worked there
Okay.
before I went to Long John Silver's. I was an assistant manager.
Okay.
And I worked across the street at what was the Pancake House.
Yeah.
Started off as the family
Yes.
store.
Yes, it was over there. Yeah.
So then they
Okay.
moved across the street.
Yeah.
Mom built that for me in the early 70s.
It was.
So, yeah, I went both ways.
Okay.
We opened Long John's in Sevierville in 82,
Yeah.
so
I worked at most of the 80s. I worked at Cherokee Textile Mills, which used to be in Sevierville. Connie's dad worked there. I remember I used to see him all the time there.
Well, we had Remax Drive.
Well, Remax Drive-In. All of that land up there sold in the early 80s. And 1981, 82, long about then, which Remax restaurant closed, drive-in restaurant closed, and so did the Midway Drive-In Theater. So that was huge for that end of town because it was so much a part of Pigeon Forge. And yeah, Bill's got an old program here from 19...
That's from 67 there, but it didn't go out until
1967, okay. Fistful of Dollars was playing up there at the Midway, okay.
you stood on your toes in my bedroom, you could see part of it.
You see part of that? And they used to have dollar night. Well, they'd pack them in there when they had dollar night.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
And
man.
I had a friend who had a Hertz. And so we would just pile that Hertz full of people
A
and take it
Hertz?
in for $1.
Where do you work at, Ashley's?
I don't know, we didn't ask any questions, we all just got it back.
But those places, and what's there now on the south end of town? The Cracker Barrel is there, and those, and those, the donut place, and all that is there now. So that end, south end of town really changed a lot in the 80s. That was huge when Remax closed and the drive-in theater closed. It really did. It changed the city a lot, and of course those were replaced with more commercial, more
Cracker
tourist-related things in there. So that was a big change. In 1984, the Belts Mall opened up down here, which, if you remember that, that's where Mountain Mile is now. But that was huge because there was really nothing like that in Pigeon Forge. We just always went to the Big Inn. You wanted anything before the Big Inn was on the Parkway here in Pigeon Forge for years and years and years. But the Belts Mall was a big change to have that here in Pigeon Forge. And Pigeon Forge was growing tremendously. Any memories about I remember going down there and shopping a lot.
Oh, yeah, that was the place because all we had in Sevierville was like a corner store.
Right.
You didn't have a Walmart.
Well, we had a Walmart then. We had a Walmart then. Walmart came in 83.
What about the Red Mall up there? Was
Red
it
Roof
not
Mall?
the first?
Yes,
Yes, that's
yeah,
the first
they
You
did
remember
that.
what it was before it was Red
Yeah, it
Roof
was
Mall?
Mountain Ocean before it was the Red Roof Mall. It was
That's
Mountain
the
Ocean.
Boo's Mountain Ocean.
Yeah, and Z. Buddha, a local businessman, owned that. That opened up in 82, is what I found out in most of my research. Of course, it's still there today.
Part
And
of it.
On the back, yeah, some of it.
yeah.
Yeah, that's true. It's went through a lot of changes. And on the back side of it, where all the construction is going on, they're doing some building of some type over there now. I don't know exactly what all is going in there. But yeah, the Red Roof Mall was there prior to that. They opened up before the Belts Mall did. So it was, I'm in the 60s. I would never thought we'd had two shopping malls in Pigeon Forge.
No. That up there around that area, there was a zoo. It was called Ware's Fort.
Yes.
And it was a zoo, and it wasn't far from my home, and you could go up there. It was fun to go up there. It was really just entertainment to go up to the zoo and see the animals and the snakes and everything.
Unless they escaped and then you could send them.
I remember over on the hill,
The elephant was always getting
the
out.
Yes.
Well, the elephant was getting out. That may have been exaggerated a little bit, but it did get out.
Yes.
So,
No, he
yeah.
got out, I was at Connie Clevenger's once.
And still, like I said, yeah. And my favorite part was the snake guy, though. He'd put on this suit,
Yes, I remember
and he'd
the
go
suit.
down there and walk in where all those snakes were, and show them to you and everything, and that was always my favorite.
there wasn't any houses back in there behind the zoo,
No.
going up onto this little cove and through there, you know.
Right.
And so there, every once in a while, there'd be a little fire up there in the woods, kind of on the hill. And my dad told me that was when one of the animals died, that they took him up there, and that's where they burned him, I guess, and whatever. I thought that was really interesting.
They burned it up.
Well, they had to cremate him. I guess they cremated him.
And that's where
That was just a really interesting fact for you to tell me.
Professor Hackers is there, or Professor Hackers is there now.
Yeah.
Where all of that,
Yes.
that area right in there. Professor Hackers, Hardy's, what's the restaurant up on the hill?
Alamo.
Alamo, thank you, yeah.
But we
Alamo.
also had the Magic World.
We did, it's Magic World was there, yes. That came in the 1980s too. And I didn't go there a lot. Did any of you all? I don't remember. I was older then. I don't remember.
My little brother, John,
Went to Magic
worked
World.
there.
Worked at Magic
Well,
World?
he was way too young to be working anywhere. But they were doing tricks with bicycles and stuff, and then they were doing some diving. And he made friends with the paid employees. He was just like 11 or 12. He made friends with the paid employees, and he was doing shows and stuff until Mom got that fixed real quick. Mom will kill you. Get back here.
We, there was, so that was huge for Pigeon Forge to
Yeah.
get two shopping malls worlds in there and all
Oh,
that.
yeah.
The
Well,
other,
Magic World was one of the best things in the world. I had two little boys, and they thought that there was no other place in the world to go but Magic World. They'd never seen anything like that. You could ride on the magic carpet, you could get your picture made, And I made, I'm sure at least once a week to Magic World for several years, because they always wanted to go see Magic.
Season pass.
Season pass, that's right. Did you have a season pass?
No, but I had a little cousin that my mother used to babysit a lot. And I can't tell you how many times we went to Magic World.
But, yeah, my mama could get tickets, and so when we got shipped there, it was just the biggest thing in the world was to go to Magic World. We still have pictures in our house of Magic
of
World.
Magic World. Wow, okay. Did you ever go there, Bill? I never went to Magic World.
I've been there, well, never did go in.
Yes, I never go in. Another big thing that happened in Pigeon Forge in the 1980s, and I'll get into some stuff about hotel rooms and everything later, but of course in 1986, Silver Dollar City became Dollywood, and that was huge. That was huge, and the changes that have went on there since have just been tremendous. The growth that they have and the area that they encompass. Prior to that, it had been Gold Rush Junction, and it had been Rebel Railroad when it very first started back in the early 60s, so there were a lot of changes in it. And we've talked about it before, but back when it was Rebel Railroad, I don't remember a whole lot being there with the train ride and a few little buildings and stuff.
Didn't they have a saloon?
They had a saloon, yeah, they did, they had a saloon.
Yeah, it transitioned from Rebel Railroad to was Gold Rush
Gold Rush
Junction.
Junction.
I think it's Cleveland Browns on the.
Yeah, Art Modell and all the Cleveland Browns.
And then it went to Silver Dollar City.
City, yes.
And that's when the Hirschhausen's come in. And
Well,
Dollar
they-
went in with them.
No, yeah.
They
Come
improved
Dollar,
it
they
a
can
whole
see.
lot as Silver Dollar City.
Yeah,
It was
it-
much bigger than it was as Go Rush
Oh,
Junction.
very much so.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
And it became Silver Dollar City in 1976, and then 10 years later, Dolly went in with them and all the changes.
Well, I had the opportunity to work at Gold Rush and Silver Dollar City for the Cleveland Browns, and so I got to be a Candy girl. Y'all remember going to the show in the saloons?
Connie was a saloon girl, I think.
You remember me as and then I got to be Diamond Lil.
What JP leave, I think?
Okay, just thought
That sounds great.
Then I got to be Diamond Lil, and do any of y'all remember Bill Robertson?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He was the chief.
Chief, yeah.
And he'd come in and laugh at me. And when he did, I'd shoot him. And he'd fall out, and they'd drag him out of the saloon.
That's a fun job, I bet.
And then I also got to be the girl when the train went up. You remember when the Indians used to
Yeah.
jump on the front of the train
Yeah,
and scare the
take the train, yeah.
So I did that for a while, and they drugged me off the train, and then the cowboys rescued me, got me back off the train. So I worked high school and college there doing those sorts of things.
Did it pay pretty good?
Yeah, really.
For the times, yeah, for the times and everything?
I'd say the decade of the 80s was, that decade
Yeah.
was the biggest change as far as the city of Pigeon Forge.
Right.
What transition. Because in 1980, and I think the World's Fair kind of brought this on too, but that's the year, or in the early 80s, is when they expanded the parkway from 4 lanes to 6 lanes.
Yes.
And put the 3rd lane through the city, and then Dollywood taking over there. Those two items right there impacted Pigeon Forge, I guess, more than, I mean, we can talk 2 or 3 days on what all happened in the 80s, but those two items right there probably impact the city of Pigeon Forge as far as people coming in here and turning it into a more touristy town and stopping in Pigeon Forge instead of going through and going
So
down.
driving straight through, yeah.
They weren't just asking how far is it to Gatlinburg.
Yeah,
They were,
I was thinking about that, and I thought, from coming from the 70s to the 80s, we went from a 1-horse town to a 2-horse town.
And that was big when it went to 3 lanes.
Oh, yeah, yeah, a lot more
that was-
traffic.
Yeah, there's a lot more traffic, and that's about the time the rod runs started coming to town too.
That's what I was thinking,
Yeah.
that's what those programs started.
But, yeah, so much change, but yeah, I didn't know you had jobs over there. Well, that's interesting. I remember going to the pool there in the 70s when they had the pool, and back then you could drive straight in. You didn't have to buy a parking pass or anything, you could just drive up there and park next to the pool and go in and swim. It wasn't much to
It's
get
a
in
big
there.
pool.
There's a huge pool, and they had organized aquatic events and things there and everything. Yeah, it was a big part of it.
Where was the pool located? Was it kind of where the employee entrance area is now off Middle Creek? Was it on that end of the park?
Yes.
Okay, kind of
Yes.
HR, where all the HR and trolley drop off and all that kind of stuff is over there? Okay.
Where the trolleys drop off there, it was more, I would say, over and
Yeah, part of the
then back a little ways from there, was where the pool was. And it's been gone a long time. I couldn't tell you how long.
Well, they had they had a camping ground over there.
Yeah, they had a campground over there. They had a huge campground over there. Yeah, it sure did. Yeah, sure did.
Well, to add to that, the 80s, we had a lot of water in Pigeon Forge.
Yeah, we did.
We had the mountain ocean, we had the old water park,
Water park.
we had all them water boggins that went in. We had Tommy Bartlett down on the lower end of town, which was a man-made lake. And let's see what else.
The city, the city's probably making a lot of money off selling all water. Yeah.
Somebody said, y'all got more water than Myrtle Beach does.
There was little bunker boat water things. The little
Wild
bunker boat
wheels and water
wild
bugs.
wings.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. So, yeah, we did. We had, Tommy Bartlett's didn't last too many years. What, about 3 or 4 years, Bill?
No, it wasn't longer than that.
Was it longer than that?
I think it was down there about 12 years.
Oh, okay. In some form? Okay, yeah. But, oh yeah, a lot of stuff. 1986 also saw the closing of an institution here in Pigeon Forge, the Big Inn on the Parkway closed, which is right next to the Special Events Office. It's there where the
Moon pie.
book warehouse, the moon pie place. It was,
Probably have a moment of silence for the big.
yeah, like we've talked about it before, but there was really not hardly anywhere else in Pigeon Forge to go shopping. I mean, downtown Sevierville had privately owned mom and pop shops and places.
Wasn't the
Sue's
gentleman-
Fashion, which opened in the 60s, you probably went shopping there, didn't you? I remember my mom.
She pierced my ears.
She pierced your ears. But she opened up in the 60s and went for a long time. But and there were a few places, Ann Halbert was down on the south end of town. There were a few places, but the Big Inn was more of a dry, you could buy about anything there. It was dry goods, you could go in there and get anything. And but once Walmart and Kmart came in Sevierville, it pretty much sealed their fate, they couldn't obviously compete with them or anything. But I remember the day they had their going out of business sale, going down there and buying stuff as they'd marked everything down. And I guess the biggest thing, and I've told this before too, I'll tell it very quickly, was where you first went in, over to the left, they kept all their records. And they had this huge record thing there. And I probably, to this day, I have vinyl records that I bought there in the 1970s when you could buy them for $1.98 and everything, But that's one of the biggest things I remember about it, But you could get clothing, you could get anything there, again, dry goods, a little bit of everything, So.
Now, Butler store, it was
Yeah.
long before those.
Oh, yes, yeah. I worked there one summer in 1968. I worked there at Butler's. And actually, that's an interesting point though. They had a little bit of everything at Butler's too, Now, if you want clothing, about all they had was overalls, They hadn't that much of a selection as far as clothing.
But they had bologna sandwiches.
They had
and
bologna
fish
sandwiches that were real good, and they'd slice them for you
Jackie
back
bought
there
it.
too, wouldn't they? Yeah. And I worked for Harold Butler, and his motto was, if I ain't got it, you don't need it. and pretty much anything you like, hey, Harold, we got it. Oh, yeah, if I ain't got it, you don't need it, he'd say.
I used to tell everybody that's Stewart's Drugstore's motto.
If I
If they ain't got it.
you don't need it. You don't need it. So,
I think that area too, Butch, wasn't that when, where the Department of Tourism is now? That
Yeah.
building. City Hall used to sit there.
City Hall did.
Yeah.
And when the school, when the elementary school went out,
Yep,
they transitioned
up there.
up there where they're at now.
Yeah.
And I couldn't find the exact date, but I know it was in the 80s.
Well, the last school year they had, and we're talking about the area where City Hall and all that, all the city buildings are now, so we're talking, it was the school from 1952 to 1990. The last year they had school there was the 89-90 school
Yeah.
year. And the city bought it after they finished school and redone everything and did all that and opened it back up in 1993 as we see it now. And of course now there's all that construction going on there now. They got a brand new fire hall out there, you know, right off Pine Mountain Road. When I went to school there in the 60s, that was where like the buses came and went there on the end, and the teachers and everybody parked there, you know. But they have a brand new, beautiful state-of-the-art fire hall there. And they say they'll be in the police department in their area up there. They'll be in there this year sometime. And by 2027, they hope to redevelop that whole area, and all of the city offices will be up there. So it's what it is, you know, special events is kind of across over there next to the book warehouse. They're kind of spread out everywhere now, a little bit. A lot of it is concentrated in there now, but their goal is, and the building they will build there, they're telling me will be 3 stories high, and we'll have all of the city offices encompassed in that. But Connie and I live right there next to it. We walked to school every day, didn't we? Yeah. I lived about a block and a half down, and Connie literally lived right across from the school.
Well, I lived even closer than that.
Is that right?
Just on the other side of the post office a
The
little
other
bit.
side of the post office? Yeah, you were right there at it then, yeah.
We used to play on that playground,
Oh,
with sheep
yeah.
ball on that court.
Yeah,
And, you know, before all that stuff for the Holiday Inn, I don't know if it's the Holiday Inn anymore, but
Yeah.
it's over the hills there, down in there. That was still just land
Yeah.
and rocks. There was a big tree down there, and they called it the Big Oak Tree.
I remember the big oak tree.
And you could go down there and play fort and stuff, you know, and play. Yeah.
Because it was like, if you cut across where the post office is,
Yeah.
a lot of times we'd be going to the church, going to RA, remember RAs or GAs, they used to have the church, it's Baptist Church, which is still there, it's where I still go to church, but you could just cut across through that area and walk right over to it and everything. Oh yeah, I remember the big oak real well, I remember when they cut it down and everything, so yeah. So tremendous changes in that area, and all that started in the late 80s, they started transitioning.
The one big thing that I remember was the round building that they
Yes.
built onto the schools in those later years. I guess we were going into the 7th grade probably when that happened. Wow, you would have been going into the 6th.
I mean, going into about the 6th.
Was that
They were building it, I remember when I was in like the 3rd, maybe the 4th grade, they were building it then. It's so called because it was a round building
I never seen it. Did
Four
y'all ever
classrooms.
seen it?
with 4 classrooms.
Did y'all ever see it round?
I was one of the first group to be in the round building.
Okay.
We probably went to school together.
What's your name, sir?
Larry King.
Larry? Oh, yeah, I know you, Larry.
Yeah, you see
Okay,
that church over there.
yeah. You lived up, was Sanders your dad?
Yeah.
You lived up on the top of the hill, up
Yeah.
above the Henrys. Yeah,
Okay.
okay, yeah. And Miss Anna was your
Yeah,
aunt. Yeah,
that's
Miss
right.
Anna King. She lived right up the street from us. That's where Miss Anna lived, most of where she lived is the nursing home now. There now.
Yeah, they
Oh
own
my
some
goodness,
property.
I miss Ada. I mean, we missed y'all all the time.
Yeah, all the time. Yeah.
We were friends.
Well, she eventually married Bill and became Amos Stanton. I called her Miss King all my life. That was about all I ever called her. But yeah, yes. She literally lived right out the street
Yes.
us.
Oh, yeah.
I live what's now known as the Bill Delosier house there, you know, and everything, but I grew up there, and my grandmother lived right next door to us. But yeah, I remember Miss Anna. Yeah, she was a sweetheart. She when we were kids, she didn't drive until later in life, as I remember.
Yeah,
She was an older lady before she started driving, and she used to walk to school with my sisters all the time. You know, we would. But all three of us, we were about a year and a half apart, so we'd all three be going, we'd wait for Miss King to come down and catch up with us, you know, to walk up there to the school and everything. Oh yeah, Miss Anna was a sweetheart. Oh yeah. You ought to be on this panel, Larry. Give me your information before you leave here today.
You just come to my house,
Uh-huh.
come to my house with Anna, and went places with you, and Anna, Bill, wasn't that his name?
Yeah.
That shared in later life?
Yeah, Bill Stanton. Yeah, Bill
Well,
Stanton.
his real name was Wendell, but his whole
Wendell.
family had called him Billy.
Yeah.
And Miss Annie said, I'm not gonna call you Billy, you're gonna be Bill.
I don't think he really liked being called Wendell anyway, did he? You know,
Well, that was only with the city, that's.
yeah,
that's how
and
the
he
city
worked
was.
for the city for a long time, and even after he retired, he would come by special events to
Oh,
visit me a lot and everything. Yeah, we were on that, yeah. Did you
Hey,
have
do you remember the first fast food restaurant come to Pigeon Forge?
Burger King?
You cheated.
Oh, I just knew it. Burger King,
Yeah.
And Arby's came about a year and a half later. Arby's came about a year and a half later.
We mentioned Dollywood and Parkwick.
Yeah.
One of the biggest, another big impact that impacted Pigeon Forge and still impacted today was Ken Seaton brought the car show from Gatlinburg to Pigeon Forge. In the
Yeah. So if y'all don't like it, it's all his fault.
Well, he's gone now, but
Yeah,
anyway.
he's gone now,
But the car shows used to be back in the
Yeah.
70s in Gatlinburg.
Yeah.
And now they've come to Pigeon Forge. But Ken Seaton was
Yes.
the
Was
grand
instrumental,
rod
was
runner.
instrumental in it, yeah.
Yeah,
It
he's
was
instrumental in bringing the rod runs to
And in
Pigeon
the
Forge.
1980s, he opened up the Grand Hotel in Pigeon Forge, which was just right behind where, well, now, what's there now? I can't think of the name of the place that's there now, but there's still,
It's a little strip mall.
yeah,
and then,
yeah.
Tennessee
But
State
Tennessee
Bank.
State Bank.
There's a bank.
Tennessee State Bank, but yeah, they're, I forget what it is now, but yeah.
And there's a lodge down at the end of just beyond the parking lot where the great hotel was.
Yes.
Black Fox Lodge.
Black Fox
and
Lodge,
back
that's it
up
there,
from
thank you,
was-
Black Fox Lodge, that's where it's at now. It was the Grand Hotel, and Ken Seaton developed that. That was huge. That opened up in about 1982, if I remember correctly. And there really wasn't anything that big or anything like that in Pigeon Forge. Ken Seaton also owned the Family Inns. You may be familiar with that. Probably not even in business anymore, but
I
he
have a little
was.
story about that.
Okay, go out ahead.
I didn't know this, but I was told this, that Ken Seaton went up to the other end of town, right next to the store where there was Family Inn. You know this, don't you?
No.
And he had a card game, the guy who owned that hotel. And the guy lost, and that's how he came to Family Inn.
It could be true.
True.
If you started on Ken Seaton stories, you could go on and on and on forever.
I babysat Kenny once.
What that?
I babysat Kenny.
Oh, you babysat his kids?
Once.
Yeah. So,
First of
I could
May,
handle anybody. He'd never been disciplined. He didn't know what that was.
and they had that big sign. Remember the rooms they advertised for $19.99.
Yeah.
But if you went in there, it had like all these restrictions on it. They only had so many rooms like that, and it just got into a big thing.
One
So-
bed, you don't get a pillow.
Yeah, you don't get that. And the Grand Hotel, that was interesting. We did some events there early on when I was working at special events, and it was very interesting to work with. Ken was still there then and was very active in it. And he got to ask me who it was, and I told him, and he knew my dad. And I had heard this story before, but he said, your dad saved my life when we went swimming one day. And I said, yes, I've heard that story before. Apparently they all went to some big swimming hole and Ken ran out there and just jumped in the water and got out there and got to holler and said, help, 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 I need help. And said the other guys just, but he's just going on. He just carrying on like that. So my dad said he swam out there and got him, and said, we got him back in there and got him back on the bank over there. Said we pumped about a gallon of water out of him. Said he's okay, you know. And so years later, whenever I tell that story about Ken, some people would say, "Oh boy, well." I won't say what some of them said. We won't go there, but you know, it was interesting. Yes. He developed. His parents were both teachers. Major from Class C. His mom taught at Pigeon Forge Elementary when we were there, and his dad taught at the high school. You know, he taught me general math when I was a freshman.
The way I describe Ken Seaton is he is a shrewd businessman.
He was a shrewd businessman. Shrewd businessman, shall we say. Not saying anything, no, we're not about it, but he was an interesting gentleman to deal with. But yeah, we touched on some of the other things. Ogles Water Park opened up in Magic World, Tommy Bartlett's, all these things. Now, Ogles Water Park, most of y'all probably know this, but it's down there where the mall is now, where the theater is in there and all that is. Calhoun's and all that. That's where Ogles Water Park was, on the parkway. Closed probably for good in around 2000 or the late 90s or something. What's that?
2002.
2002, thank you, Miss Marcia. And opened up, I believe, in around 1982, something like that, in the early 80s. And it was very popular for a long time. Oh yeah. I mean, they packed them in there, you know, at Ogles Water Park. Of course, Luther Ogle, better known as Coot Ogle from Gatlinburg, he and his family came in and developed all that and everything. And it's called Walden's Landing now. That's what I was trying to think of. It's where we know as Walden's Landing now.
Hall of Dean's Lumberjack.
Yeah, all that is down there now. Calhoun's, yeah. Still a good place to go eat. Tommy, you got a question?
For legal reasons, don't mention any names, but talk about the bootleggers.
You would be talking about the infamous Archie Carroll. Okay, here's my Archie Carroll story.
I ain't got one of those, and I don't drink.
Myself and another young man, but Archie Carroll was a notorious bootlegger he was passed on Middle Creek there, right where the employees' entrance is there for Dollywood now. He had a place, an establishment, shall we say, up there. And two young men went there one night. Let me tell it this way. And it was kind of late, and waited. He didn't come right out right away, which he usually did. He had one of those little things like they had at the filling station where you'd run over to the dean, you know, so you knew you were coming. So he finally comes out in his garage. He finally comes out, and when he first starts, he's literally stepping into a boot. You see a boot come out through the door, and there's like a foot stepping into it. And he comes over there, and he's like rubbing his eyes, you know, and everything. And they asked him, you know, Archie said, we didn't know if he was going to come out here or not. It was getting kind of late. And he said, boys, I doze, but I never close.
And before they had the dinger, you had to know the right combination of the horn blowing.
Yeah.
There the light flicker.
Or you had to be, yes. It was interesting. But you got to remember, there was no legalized drinking really in Sevier County then of any kind.
Well, you could get liquor in Gatlinburg.
Well, you could in Gatlinburg. They didn't get liquor by the drink until the early 80s. But before that, you could go, like the Ski Lodge served alcohol, the Elks Lounge served alcohol in Gatlinburg. So there were certain private clubs that you could go to and drink, but there wasn't legalized drinking as there is now, that we see now. So,
Gatlinburg, I mean, all the rest of the county was dry.
Yeah, the rest of the county was dry. The rest of the county was dry. It really was. Very, very different.
Archie Carroll was much closer to get to.
Yeah, it was. And again, late at night, you know, it was a lot closer, so. Oh, he was an infamous character. He, they would go up there and visit him occasionally, the police would, you know, and I think it was almost a joke, I don't know. I don't remember him ever really. He actually ran for sheriff in 1974, you know, he ran for sheriff once and got like 200 or 300 votes, you know, so I guess stranger things can happen. Yeah, I guess all his customers went out and voted for him, I don't know, oh, yes, yeah.
Talking about the car shows, one of the biggest things too, and I hadn't thought about this, but does anybody remember, some of you older people might, like we are, 8-track tapes and vehicles? Well, my 80s is when that transitioned from 8-tracks to cassettes. And I didn't think, I thought the world was coming to an end. But now, even CDs are out.
Yeah, even CDs are out, and they're I say that when we first went from 8 tracks to cassettes, I had for a long time, don't have any more, but I had a big monster stack of 8 tracks. And I remember my little brother looking at them and said, God, you know, what'd you play these in? You know, what kind of a device did you play these things in? Because they were huge to do that, but it was very, very different back then. The growth continued. In 1980, records tell us that Pigeon Forge had 1,500 motel, hotel rooms, and by 1982, they had 3,300. So there had been a lot of build up in that area, a lot more chain of establishments began coming here to Pigeon Forge then, and saw the benefit of coming here. That was really going to be a booming area. And gosh, where we're at right here today used to be Jake Thomas's place, you know, and he raised hogs here on this land we're on today. And at one time he had like 5,000 hogs. And where the special events office is now over here, that used to be City Hall. And the joke at City Hall used to be you couldn't open the windows or anything because the smell from Jake's place over here would just hit you like crazy. And all there was really was just an old dirt road where Teaster Lane is here now. It used to be Orbank Road. And it only came a little right up to Jake's place, but to get on to Jake's place or down by the river, there was just a little gravel road that went down there that you would drive on, you know. And usually we would try and call it. We used to go there and go fishing all the time. He'd want us to call him, you know, beforehand and let him know we were going to be down there. But it was very, very different. And then they didn't build the bridge until probably the 1990s. They built the bridge.
Yeah, I think that's when they built Easter Lane here.
Yeah.
In the late 80s, early 90s.
Yes.
They had just done the parkway.
Right.
It's the 6 lanes, and then they done the bridge.
They started, it took them a while to get the rights, and it took them a while to negotiate a deal with Jake too, to get through there. They started in the 80s, but Teaster Lane, as you all know it now, didn't happen until about the 1990s, about 94 or 95, thereabouts. It became Teaster Lane. It used to be Orbank Road. When I was a kid, it was Orbank Road. My friend Neil Whaley and all of them lived over on Orbank Road, you know. And if you went to the right, you went up what's called Ridge Road. We all called it Possum Holler, didn't we? I mean, everybody called it Possum Holler, and I knew.
Yeah, and an interesting fact in that, a lot of people don't know this. Some of them do. Down here at the lower end of the parking lot, we go into the aisle. Under Teaster Lane is a tunnel. They had Jake on both sides of this farm. I don't remember how many 100 acres he had here. But the deal was when they built Teaster Lane, they had to build a tunnel for the cattle to go under, to go from one fields and other.
Yep.
That tunnel is still down there today. It used to, the city had plans of making it a pedestrian tunnel because back when I was with the city, we put lights in it. I don't know if we're still in it or not, but that tunnel's still down there. If you go down the lower end of the parking lot and look back up that way, you can see it.
Yeah, yeah. And where Jake's house was about where the island and all that is now. It was long about in there, at the end of the parking lot where you first go in there. He lived about there. And there was really nothing else in here, you know, other than hogs. But that's all there was. And there was a trailer that used to sit kind of over this way, maybe. There was a trailer set over there. There was an old man lived there who worked for Jake and lived there in that trailer too. So it was very, very different. It was very different. It was still changing, and change was going on. So it also in the 80s it became more of like an entertainment center. You know, you had Bonnie, Lou, and Buster. It went more towards like the theaters that you see now. Everybody's laughing. You remember Bonnie, Lou, and Buster?
Yes.
Yeah. They had a show for years in the 60s and 70s and into the 80s. A local show come on Channel 6. Jim Walter Homes was their sponsor. And let's talk about getting you that new Jim Walter home. And they eventually moved here to Pigeon Forge.
They live next day, let us know
Yeah,
about.
yeah. They moved here to Pigeon Forge.
Well, you gotta remember Cass Walker came in too.
That's true. That's true.
That's earlier.
When he come to Sevierville, Cass Walker come to Sevierville, which
Big grocery store.
that was huge. That was huge, you know.
Another thing was the First Baptist Church. We had been over on the hill where the cemetery was by the golf course. And they built a new church on Parkway in Pigeon Forge. Now, I think that was a pretty big church for the time. That
Yeah, it was. It was, yes. And it's still there today. It's been there since 1959.
Another note about Bonnie, Lou, and Buster. Don't you remember her byword when they sang?
No.
You know, when she said something, she'd look over and she'd say, "Ain't that right, Buster?" Buster, I never did know of him disagreeing with me.
I'm sure he did. You remember how the character he used to dress up and portray? Hump Hammer?
Hump Hammer,
Yeah, he had a little character he'd come out and do. Oh, yeah. It was, but I was trying to think, didn't somebody famous work for them that went on to do something? I can't think of who it
She was
is.
the Lawrence Well.
Yeah, she did the Lawrence
Yeah.
Welch show.
Oh,
and all
yes,
that
she's
stuff.
blonde-haired.
Ava Barber?
Yes.
Ava
Yes.
Barber, yeah. She was with them for years, you know, and she went on to sort of kind of big time, you know.
Think of something else music. I got the Jim Walter mobile home thing singing in my head, and I'm sitting here. That Jim Walter come rolling down.
They were kind of second fiddle to Cass Walker.
That's true.
Butch, do you remember, where was the Bonnie, Lou, and Buster show?
I was gonna say, you didn't say where it was.
Oh, that's
because I don't remember.
It was down here.
Like where you're turning in there at the Red Roof Mall, to the building right to the left there, I think they sell quilts or something
It
now.
used to be Little Dolly Dresses.
It used to be Little Dolly's Dresses. It was right there. It's where they did their show. They did their show right there. And they were there for a long time.
Yeah, they built that, did they have that building
I
built?
think they did have that building.
And it's still there today.
Yes.
Yeah. And then didn't Z Buddha develop the mall and all
Yes.
that?
Oh, yeah,
The
yeah.
mall, and he was a businessman in Morristown, but he had a lot of holdings in Sevier County too. And he developed a lot of that there, and then he sold it to them when they went out and they developed.
You remember Z Boo?
I
You
know it's
remember.
Buddha.
Z Buddha was an interesting gentleman. He was an interesting gentleman. Yes.
What year did the Dollar Parade get started?
1986, I think.
That was a big draw.
That was a big thing.
The what parade?
The
The
dog.
Dolly Parade.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes, yeah, that was to this day, when I first started special events in '99, that was the biggest single day thing we did.
Yeah.
And the entries, we'd line them up on River Road, and it got so popular, there were so many came, that it would take up all of River. We went to the very end of River Road, and we would have to cross over to the other side and start coming back up that way. We could have 125 to 130 units there, and all they wanted to do was see Dolly, you know, and people would line the streets. It was huge. One of the last years I worked it, and let me tell you, I worked at the special events for 22 years. If you've never had to organize a parade and put one on, God bless you, you've not missed anything. And it was so hard to do, and we would have this one big secure area that we would bring Dolly to. We'd put her in there, and the police would seal it off, because, I mean, she literally got death threats and stuff. I mean, it was very serious. We took all this stuff seriously. But when we were in there, certain people, certain VIPs, they would bring people in to get their picture took with Dolly, you know. And they wanted me to get mine took one day. And I said, I don't have time. I'm in charge of this parade. They're like hollering at me on my phone and my radio, and, you know, Butch, we've got to do this, and, you know, this unit broke down on River Road. It's backed up. What are we going to do? You know, and I'm like, nothing. Don't want to have my picture taken with Dolly. I don't have time. So finally, Miss Teaster, who was our city manager, told me, said, go over and get mine, have your picture taken. Okay. So I'm standing there, and they're still calling me. You know, my radio's squawking and going off, and then first they thought it was my turn, and they said, no, it's not your turn, you gotta wait. I'm like, okay. So I'm still on my phone talking, and I hear Dolly say, honey, get off that phone and get over here and get your picture taken. And I said, yes, ma'am. And when they sent me the picture, I've got kind of this crazy smile on it. The guy who was in charge of our dog says, gee, Butch, you look like you're almost happy when you get your picture taken. Most people are happy when they get their picture taken with Dolly. But yeah, that was huge. But that started in 1986, Tommy, was the first year of it. And boy, it grew every year. It was huge. It was huge. We shut the town down pretty much, you know. Schools let out early. I mean, you know, the bank that used to be there right next to the parkway, that's where it would come out onto the parkway. They just closed down every day about 2 o'clock. They just closed down and go to the house. You know, couldn't nobody get in to see them. They couldn't do anything. You know, but that was huge. I'm glad you brought that up, because I hadn't thought about that. That was huge.
You know, y'all were talking about Bonnie Lou Buster and the theaters and everything. You know, Archie Campbell.
Yes, Archie Campbell. Archie Campbell had one on the north end of town over there. I was a busboy at the Apple Tree Inn in 1969, and Archie Campbell used to come there every day and eat. And I knew him. He was a very nice man. And I got to know his son, Phil, who was also an entertainer and worked with us many times in the city of Pigeon Forge. But his dad, Archie Campbell, was tighter than the bark on the hickory tree. And he would eat there every day, and he would only tip a quarter. Now, granted, this is in 1969, okay, but all he would tip was a quarter, and none of the waitresses wanted to wait on him. And there were 2 waitresses when I was there one day. They got to arguing about whose turn it was to wait on him, and they got mad and got in a fight, and both of them got fired. So it was.
You remember where he was from?
Yeah, Bull's Gap. Bull's
They
Gap.
never did claim him either.
They did, didn't they?
Well, I was working there at Apple Tree Inn, probably the same year you were, maybe a year later, I don't know, but Bonnie and Buster would come
They
in.
came in there often, yes.
Oh, yes, and then we'd go kind of to the back, the corner, and they'd sit in the back so they could see out, everybody could see them, you know, sitting back there, and they were so nice and everything. But we got off at 2 o'clock, and it was like you said, if you had a customer, you didn't leave. I mean, if they wanted to sit there till 9 at night, you had to stay. And they would come, and they'd always come about 10 to 2. And we would say, oh, because they tipped a quarter. That must have been the going rate.
It must have been.
And you took and say, you know, just take it, and then I'll do it. No, so I got to wait on them a lot. I was there for they tipped a quarter.
Well, before our time is complete, is there any questions any of y'all would like to ask us? And we'll try and answer them or tell you a big lie or something. Does anybody have any questions?
Going back to the fast food places, Do you remember when Long John Silver's came?
Yes, I do. That's about the mid-70s, wasn't it?
Or
Yeah.
a little before the 80s.
Jackie used to work for him, didn't you? Didn't you work for Long John's?
14 years.
Yes. They came in about,
They were already.
Long
open
John
at
Silver's
Pigeon
and
Forge.
Wendy's came about the same time. And Wendy's is still there. Long John Silver's, they finally, there's something else there, they tore it down.
Yeah, well, when we were working there, they said, we got 25 years, then they're taking over the property. And we're like, why would you do that? I didn't buy it, but you can buy it.
They didn't buy
Sure
it.
enough.
That is, yeah. Well, you know, it's, at that time, you know.
That was a busy store till Jackie set opened up in the Severe Bowl.
Do you remember when the helicopters, what year they came to town?
Yeah, the helicopters came there in the late 60s.
Late 60s.
Yeah,
When did they-
one of them was right next to the apple tree in there.
Yeah.
He's the young man who crashed up in the park when they were looking for the little Martin boy. Do you remember that happened in 19? There was a little boy named Dennis Martin who got lost in the national park and has never been found anything to this day. And the gentleman who had the helicopter there, we all knew him. He came in the apple tree inn and ate all the time, and we got to know him. And he was helping them. He was up there helping them, and I don't know exactly what happened, but he crashed and passed away as a result of his injuries up there in the park. So
What year did they leave?
It's in the 90s.
they stayed different variations of them. Every company stayed there till about the 90s.
Yeah, see, they were in Pigeon Forge. They were
Yes.
up in Pigeon Forge.
Yes, yeah.
And then Pigeon Forge lobbied to Nashville.
Well, they're still there today, really.
Get 'em out.
They're out on 66.
Well, they got them outside the city first.
Yeah.
Because they come down, where, I remember Johnny Carino's is now,
Yes,
that
yeah.
building's still there on the opposite side. That's close to where we lived. I remember we sat there on the carport, and it was 12 minutes. From the time they landed, to the time they took them back, come back and got another load, it's 12 minutes. Just all day long.
And that's why everybody complains so about it. That's why the city got
Yeah.
rid of it.
It
Well,
was,
and one
it
of
was
them,
bad.
It's bad.
we had two crash.
Yeah, there were two crashes. One on the Parkway.
Yeah.
One on the Parkway crashed
And,
on the Parkway.
They went, every time, they go outside the city, because back then, back where I live now, that wasn't even in the city in 90, I think it come in 92 or 3, I believe, when they annexed
I'm
it.
not sure, yeah.
Yeah, and then they annexed all the way down to the Inland Bridge, to the border of
Yeah.
Seville.
Yeah.
But, yeah, the helicopters kept moving outside the city.
City,
Then
kind
they
of set
finally moved them out to 66.
Because it was still, yeah, even in the 70s and the 80s, part of that was still in the county. And where the Howard Johnson's is there now, sits there now, that's where the first beer store opened up that the Collier family had.
Yeah, Collier.
And they got in because it was still in the county at that time.
Right.
The city couldn't do anything about it, so the county issued them a license to sell beer. They opened up the first package store there. Not that I was ever there.
I think they had a drive-through.
That's what people tell me. That's what I've heard. I'm like Archie Carroll, that's what I've heard.
But you would be outside just sitting there, you know,
Yeah.
and those things were just driving over.
It was
and
constant,
over and
it was
constant,
constant.
You know, so.
Well, I built my house in 1990, and they were Mike Ellis, who
Yeah,
was school.
yeah.
Mike would come up to my deck.
That
full
close?
In the helicopter.
That close?
Yeah, and I finally told him, buddy, I'm gonna drop my drawers next time you do that, you're gonna start moving. I didn't have to do it, but I acted like I was going to, and boy, he took off, and that's the last time he tried to land that thing on my deck.
Did you have another
Well,
question?
yeah, I
Barry?
had a helicopter story.
Okay,
I was working with the city in Garland, and we're having a picnic down there at the pavilion, at the old park, not the new one.
yeah.
And Garland was going to have a prayer before he started eating our food. And about that time, the helicopter flew over and just drowned him out. Nobody.
Garland passed away just recently, just the other day. I went down to the funeral home for him. Great guy. I used to live right down the street from him. and knew him and his family. And he served on the city council here in Pigeon Forge in the late 60s and through the 70s. And then he really started public works. You know, he was over that and everything. And great guy. We lost him just recently. And that's really, all these folks that have been around a while, there are not too many of them, sadly, not too many of them left anymore. Garland was 97 years old.
98.
You know, 98? Okay. And, but that's a long life. And, yeah, Garland was a great guy. He was a great guy. He did a lot for the city. He was initial in helping and all that, especially on city council, of making the city look more like it does today.
Him and Uncle Bud were over part of when they redid the tunnel.
Yeah. I forget,
And then
Buck Coward?
Yeah.
I forget he's your uncle. Okay. But we, well, everybody tell them who their parents were, Bill.
Who's that?
Tell them who your parents were.
Your mom and your daddy, and you don't know who that is?
Your mom and your daddy, son. Lloyd was your mom, was your daddy. I can think of your mama's name.
Well, they were moved down the park back in the day, and we moved to down where Tommy Martin's used to be, down on Sugar Hollow Road. And I still live there today in the old home place. But my mom and dad was Lloyd and Gertrude Bradley.
Yeah.
But,
And Connie's J.P. David Myers doing well.
Yeah. And they come from the park too,
Yeah.
from up in Elmont up in there when they took the park in. And they moved, well, they were Owenbys and Whaleys. My grandfather was an Owenby. But they moved into Wares Valley. And there's a lot of things up there, a lot of them live up there now. And then the Myerses moved into Wares Valley too, but my mama worked at the bank for years.
Long time. Well, she worked at the school for a long time too. Yeah.
She worked at the school while I was going there. When I got in trouble, she'd come down there and get me, and she'd say, "You get back in there." And she wouldn't even feel sorry for me. I'd go back into the room and just sit down.
My parents were Elmer and Betty Helton. My mom was a Compton, and her folks came out of the park too. And my dad being a Helton, his folks came out of Walden's Creek up here, obviously, where Helton Holler, where they're all at up there. And we moved to Pigeon Forge in 1957 from Sevierville. They were living in this small apartment in Sevierville, and we moved to Pigeon Forge then. And we lived right next door to my Mama Helton, and it was all great. How about you, Jackie? Tell me your mom and dad.
My parents were Wanda and Jim Barnes. My dad had a construction company. He died in 1966. But Mother had the Floral Boutique, which was a flower shop in Pigeon Forge till about 1990, from the late 60s to about 1990.
But
I live next to the skating rink.
Jackie lived next to the skate rink.
Big black house. I live next to the skating rink.
And it was actually a bowling alley.
It was a bowling
before
alley.
It was the skating rink.
Yeah, when I built that
Yeah.
house.
And who's your mom and what's her maiden name?
Wanda Connor.
She's a Connor. She's a
Charles
Connor.
Bunyan is my
Yeah.
granddaddy.
Yeah.
Well, the guy they named before is my
Right.
granddaddy. And we were that end, the far end of town.
But
Yeah.
all of them were common names in
Yeah.
Spear County.
Yeah,
at that
both my
time,
parents
you
were
know,
born in the
yeah.
park, they got kicked out.
Yeah.
Well, my daddy worked at Cherokee
Forever.
Textiles forever.
Yeah.
well, my dad, I feel really blessed to be born and raised in a small town as Pigeon Forge.
I do too.
I'm really blessed to live here.
It is. My dad did construction work all his life and everything, but yeah, I think we were blessed to grow up in Pigeon Forge when we did, and it was a wonderful place to grow up. Still live here, and it's still a wonderful place to live. It's different, but people say, especially people I know, friends that have moved off, say, "Oh, I couldn't live in Pigeon Forge the way it is now." But you got to remember, our whole world has changed. You know, I mean, it is what it is. If it wasn't for the park, our ancestors would still be farming. Not that there's anything wrong with it, you know, but used to, that's all there was to do, you know, was to farm. And everything changed, you know, so it sure did. It hit Gatlinburg earlier than it did Pigeon Forge, but we've really took off now. I mean, Pigeon Forge is up there with Myrtle Beach and all those places like that now, but, you know, as far as a tourism destination and everything. And the quality of life we have, the services we have available are just incredible, aren't they, Marcia? And then that little library, when I grew up here, now Marcia now's got a state-of-the-art library down there, you know, it's just a
If
wonderful
we had a
place.
library years ago, it was a small place somewhere. Seemed like we had a,
Well, do you remember the first city hall that was in the Paul Sims building there? You could you could get library books in there, the Nola Chucky, whatever it was called. Used to bring books and leave them there, and I've rented many of the library. And Earlene Keister, who just retired, you know, recently as our city manager, Earlene worked in there, and she's rented me.
Seems
When
like
I was
I
talking to her at a retirement party, I said, "You rented me." Checked out all kinds of books with you. Yeah.
seems like I can remember walking down the hill there from my house and getting books or taking books back.
Yeah, yeah, but I did as well. We lived on the other side of the parkway, didn't we?
Yeah,
We're as quiet up there.
a lot quieter back then.
Yeah, it was a lot quieter and a lot different back then too. Well, listen, we want to thank you. I want to thank my friends and my cohorts up there. We've had a few requests. I don't know how y'all feel about it, to do the 60s panel again, but maybe some people didn't get to see it and would like to see that again. So I'll keep in touch with all these folks, and if we're all still alive and kicking in another year, we'll. I did want to mention very quickly two people that we lost from our panel. Randy Starkey passed away. You know, Randy had a heart attack and passed away in May. And our good friend, we'll try not to cry, Jackie. I had too. Our good friend Harriet Barrier had a stroke in November and couldn't come back. And I've known Harriet since fall of 1961 in Miss Hudd's room, first grade at Pigeon Forge Elementary.
We all had this.
I think about that big smile. I know she's up there in heaven and she's got that big smile going right now. But we've lost them just since last year. And, you know, we never know. We're not guaranteed tomorrow. As Mama Compton used to tell me, ain't nobody but the good Lord above knows how many days you got on this earth. So, but we appreciate y'all coming out here. We'll be around for a few minutes. We'll come up and ask us questions. But thank you, and thank you, Connie and Bill and Miss Jackie.